What's going on besides shadow banning and bad tweets?
We're doing well. Greg Klisch is here today because he was at practice yesterday.
Yeah.
So despite the stuff that we saw online via clips and certain tweets, he was actually there to let us know if that is accurate representations of what sounds like a very sad...
Did you mean to say the meaningless things we saw online?
Well,
they are 100% meaningless.
They are things, though, that we can actually digest and say, this is on field as opposed to the last 6 weeks of us saying, if this happened, if that happened.
We have something tangible now to break down.
What did you tangibly learn there, Chris?
I learned that it is day one of training camp, and it's never going to look great on day one, but it did not look good, at least for the quarterbacks. I did like a couple other things that I saw, and we can get into it, but Deshaun Watson throwing interceptions, not great. Denzel Ward looked fantastic, and Shedeur, he looked okay. The quarterback tracker will tell you he's the second coming. He looked okay. I'll say that. But neither quarterback really flashed and said, that's our guy. That's the guy taking control. But again, it's day one. We're still learning about this team. They're still learning about their coach and the system. So we got a long way to go.
It is one practice. And I don't want anyone to completely overreact to one practice. But the one takeaway I had from talking to people who were there, and I intentionally did not talk to you because I know we were going to talk on the show today, was that Deshaun looked as bad as they'd ever seen him in a Browns uniform. And that's a low bar because he has not looked good in a Browns uniform for his first 4 seasons. I got texts from 2 different people, one who works with UCSS, one who doesn't work with UCSS, who was out there who just said, he was horrific. He was horrific. And then we see the clips of the back-to-back interceptions he threw. And afterwards, Todd Monken said, well, the first one was a really good play by Denzel. It actually wasn't a terrible throw. Give Denzel credit. He's the highest paid defensive back in the NFL now. To make plays like that, it is what it is. But sometimes when you make a mistake, it's more important how you bounce back from said mistake, right? That second interception, and once again, it's one play in training camp with no pads, but that was so bad. And it confirmed everything that we had thought for the last 3 seasons with Deshaun, which is that
by the way,
not
no
a quick
pads,
processor.
You said no pads as if that's an excuse for Deshaun.
No, it makes it worse, and that's what I'm getting at. There's no pass rush, so you should be able to process through 7-on-7 so quickly because there's not the threat of being clobbered by a 280-pound defensive lineman. There's no offensive linemen who are 6'4", 6'5", blocking your passing windows and your passing lanes. So this should be when you're as
well. They are there. They weren't.
He threw the 2 interceptions in 11-on-11.
But what I'm saying, they're not like the pocket's not collapsing where you have the full. Plant your feet, throw, process, read, see where the defense is. And he was so late on that. Like, so late on that dig. And Monken even called him out afterwards and said it was an unacceptable process for Deshaun to evenally get back to that read.
Why is it unacceptable?
Because he was like 7 seconds late.
I know, but he's terrible at football, so what do we expect?
Well, real quick, if you're Todd Monken and you think these two could both win your starting quarterback
Todd Monken should be fired.
Well, that's a whole different story.
It's really that simple.
It's unacceptable for a quarterback who's been in the league as long as it's Deshaun Watson, who in that situation with no pads where you can't get hit, couldn't move off that read fast enough to then still make the throw late, get picked off. That's what's unacceptable.
That second interception was so wonky looking because it was so late. I thought at first the play had stopped and Deshaun was just kind of flinging it out there and it was an interception. It kind of looked like half of the play stopped. So I don't know what happened. I think, he waited too long, but it was really wonky, really weird. The first one, you don't want to excuse a guy for throwing an interception in practice. But again, Denzel Ward is the best at what he does. He's the highest paid. He made an incredible play. But there were other plays, too, that weren't interceptions.
Go ahead.
I have on my list, I don't love holding scripts, but I wrote down my thoughts. During 7-on-7, Ward had another pass breakup on a go route on Isaiah Bond, who I think Isaiah Bond's going to pop this year. He's so fast. And he's put on.
Go ahead.
That was a Watson pass. And Bond has put on weight, too. And then Ty Campbell on a short check down, or Tyson Campbell, he had another pass breakup, too. So it wasn't just the interceptions. The DBs were feasting on Watson all day. I didn't get to see as much of Shedeur because they were two-spotting. They were on the further field.
Right.
And when you're trying to watch 2 practices at the same time, it's hard. But from what I saw of Shedeur, it was a lot of checkdowns. But he did have 2 really longer completions, I will say. One to Luke Floria. It was good to see him back out there. And one to Casey Concepcion. So, again, when I say they didn't pop, they both had some okay moments at 7-on-7. Deshaun did find Quinshon Judkins wide open on a wheel route that would have gone for a touchdown if they weren't playing 7-on-7. But yeah, overall, neither of them had a phenomenal day.
And it's worth mentioning, Deshaun got the reps with the ones yesterday,
Yes.
and Todd Monken said today Shador will be getting the reps with the ones. So they're going to switch back and forth.
Yeah.
Monken talked about how he's going to play the starters in the preseason. He's going to use every minute of the 2.5 hours they're allowed to use in practice to get a full evaluation of these guys. And he said, yeah, eventually the guy who's getting more reps with the ones is probably leading the quarterback battle, but obviously one day in, 2 days with what we know the plan is today is way too early to make any determination of who's actually ahead or who's behind.
And here's my overall feeling from the first practice, and this isn't an indictment on Kevin Stefanski or former coaches, but when they went out on that field yesterday, it felt like the team was focused, they were very intentional, and they were being coached. And that's something that I think we missed at the beginning of a lot of training camps, was because it's the first day. We're going to sing Kumbaya. We're going to get into the flow of things.
It's syllabus day in college.
It's syllabus day in college.
A level of intensity, you thought?
There was a level of intensity. There was an attention to detail. The coaches were coaching harder. It just seemed like this was a very focused team coming out who went and practiced with intention, which is a really good sign for the coaching overall.
Yeah.
We'll see where it goes from here. I'm not saying that they're going to win the Super Bowl, but I really like to see the way that Todd Monken came out in his first practice as a head coach in the NFL. It felt like a real NFL operation.
Well, that's good. If Deshaun Watson starts the season, to me, Todd Monken's having his hand forced. I don't believe Todd Monken is dumb enough to start Deshaun Watson. And by the way, this has zero to do with day one. For those who are going to say, oh, Bull, you always poo-poo everything. Why are you making such a big deal of day one? No, nothing has changed. I've said consistently this offseason that Deshaun Watson can no longer play football. We've seen that. Name me the player that was bad that hasn't been good for 6 years, and 2020 was the last time he played good football, that is all of a sudden going to be good. I don't think it's ever happened.
No.
So especially if you factor in the fact that he's had all these injuries during that time and has barely played during that time.
I was talking to Earl before the show started.
Yeah.
Before the Dallas Week 1 game, or during the Dallas Week 1 game in 2024, I texted him at halftime of that game.
Yeah.
When Deshaun had thrown 3 or 4 passes out of bounds on deep balls, and we're looking around like, what's wrong? And I think his arm shot, and that was coming off the shoulder surgery that no quarterback had ever really gone through.
Right.
It just didn't look the same. And since then, he's not only torn his Achilles once, he's torn his Achilles twice.
Yeah.
And on top of a shoulder surgery, 2 Achilles tears, he had the entire off-field saga that obviously led to his leaving departure at Houston.
And by the way,
you combine all that together, that is an incredible obstacle and a barrage of obstacles to overcome to getting back to being the player that you were in Houston, or just being a competent level quarterback.
Right.
Just baseline
which he's never been here.
Which he hasn't. Exactly.
And by the way, he tore it the second time. He had to have been careless. There's no way.
I have no idea about that.
Well, I have an idea because I tore my Achilles, and I'm an out-of-shape, middle-aged guy. And if you re-tear your Achilles, and he did it in the first month or two after, you're supposed to be in a walking boot. When you tear your Achilles, you're in a cast. Or at least when I had it, and I'm sure it's the same way. I don't know why they do it. I use Dr. Zanotti from the Center for Orthopedics, one of the best surgeons in the area, maybe the best. I have no idea. I was in a cast for like 10 days, and then I was in a walking boot for 3 to 4 months. Like, if you tear it again, you probably were careless because anytime you're on your feet, you got to be in the boot. So
I guess in that realm, that
listen, people are, you don't know what he's doing. Well, I think it's a pretty safe bet.
It's really hard to tear your Achilles. That tendon is not meant to be torn.
Yes.
So to do it a second time, I agree with you. I don't know what he was doing. But something is fishy to me there. I actually thought watching him on the field, again, he did not have a good day.
Yeah.
But I thought he was moving really well, and I thought his arm was pretty good. But that's not always been his issue.
Yeah.
It's the processing, it's the decision making, and that was on display yesterday. So I'm curious to see as training camp goes on how he holds up physically, because I agree with both of you. The fact that he had that shoulder surgery that not a lot of quarterbacks have gone through, if any, and then twice tearing your Achilles at 31 years old.
Yeah.
I can't imagine he's going to hold up an entire training camp.
No.
But I thought for day one, he actually moved pretty well, and the ball looked good coming out of his hand, but it's all up here, which it has been since he came.
And there's no reason to believe it's changed. And I think it's some physical. It's definitely mental. That's 100%. And there's just no reason to believe he's any good. You asked a question, or one, I don't know which one of you guys did the rundown, but asked the question like, did Did yesterday give you even less hope? If you had hope in Deshaun Watson, you were crazy. Now, if you had hope going into this training camp, then you shouldn't give up after one practice. But I had no hope going in, so I still have no hope.
It was more confirmation bias of what
Yeah,
you thought.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
if you didn't think he was any good, this is, hey, you just were off 6 weeks from team organized activities. This should be as fresh as you look, as good as your arm looks, as mentally locked in and ready to go as you could be. And it was, as it was described to me by two separate people, as bad as he had looked in his entire tenure as a Cleveland Brown. And we've talked for 4 years since the start of this show at how much of a disappointment Deshaun's been in Cleveland. 19 touchdowns in 19 games over 4 seasons. And that was as bad as he looked in a new offense, with new playmakers, with new players around him, a new scheme. You would hope you'd see progression. And I guess technically it's the first practice. You can't progress from baseline. It sounds like it could only go up from here because according to people who were there, and you were and I wasn't, yesterday may have been the worst practice he's had yet.
I have not seen every Deshaun Watson practice. I'm very thankful for that since he's been in Cleveland. But yeah, like I said, I walked off the field going, the winner today, if you just prisoner of the moment, the winner of the quarterback battle today was whoever they're going to draft in 2027. Because I didn't see either one of those guys take the reins. Again, day one. I remember in Cincinnati during training camp after Joe Burrow had his wrist surgery, I was talking to a former NFL quarterback who does media down there. We walked off the practice field and he goes, I don't know if Joe's ever going to be good again because the ball's not coming out. He clearly doesn't have the strength. And well, look at Joe Burrow now. He's an MVP candidate. So again, prisoner of the moment, one practice. But man, Arch Manning, Dante Moore, they're looking pretty good.
Yeah. Well, we got time to see how that plays itself out. But yeah, I mean, anyway, we've really talked this to death.
Get ready; it's going to happen on a day-to-day basis.
Well, it'll change once he names a starter.
Yes. But
until
then,
I know Todd Monken said, I don't have to name a starter. The starter's going to kind of be there. Whoever starts the first game in the preseason is probably going to be the starter. I would love to know. I would love to know if he's having his hand forced on some level by Deshaun Watson, because it wouldn't surprise me. That's what kind of a mess this organization has been. We've seen things like that before. I'm hoping that's not the case because it just doesn't make any sense.
You want some more positives out of practice? I'll give you some positives.
Give us positives.
Beat this. All right. I thought the defensive backfield, I hit on that. I thought they were pretty good. Even the backups had a pretty good day. I continue to be impressed by Denzel Boston. He was working with the twos. He just gets open. It's not just downfield. It's on short routes. He's a big target. He just finds space. He gets open, and he makes catches. Casey Concepcion, I think he's going to be better once pads go on because he's so shifty. But he had a couple plays. One was a deep ball from Shador that he just burned the DB going down the field.
Was that the stop-go route?
Yeah, that was the stop-go route,
really
which was great.
Really nice
and then he worked in with the ones, and there was a play. It was 7-on-7, but he was coming across and had a stop route. Ronnie Hickman was covering him. He made the catch, and he made a spin move on, when I say a dime, it may have actually been a dime.
Yeah.
And I don't know if pads are on, if he gets away or not, but it certainly looked like Ronnie was going this way, and Casey went the other way very quickly to a lot of open space. So that's a really good sign. I really like how Monken is having these rookies. They're all working with the second team. And that's good because they got to earn their way to the first team. Like Spencer Fano, he and DeJuan Jones are going to flip. Spencer started out on the second team. You're a rookie. You got to earn your keep. You got to find your way there. And speaking of DeJuan Jones, I know we say this every year. He looks like he has lost a lot of weight. He looks the part of a big left tackle. He looks really good. So I don't know if he can hold up health-wise has been his issue, but there were positives to take out of the practice. So that was a good first start for a lot of the positions.
Yeah.
The big one, we'll see.
And it is worth mentioning that DeJuan Jones got the 1 reps at left tackle.
Yeah.
Zion Johnson was at left guard.
Yeah.
Elton Jenkins was at center. Tevin Jenkins was at right guard. And then Tyvis Howard was at right tackle, which this is going to change throughout camp, but that was the first iteration of the offensive line we've seen from the Browns. And we've talked at length about, would Parker Brailsford get a chance? Where are they going to play Elton Jenkins? He could play center guard. Well, at least to start, he was at center. Tevin was at right.
Yeah, but you can't read anything into it because Fano, we know, is going to start left
just for everyone out there wondering, that was what the first day alignment is, and we'll be able to track and compare how it looks like next week when they're at practice 6, 7, 8. Is it the same? But that's at least the starting point for now. Was Jenkins at center, Elton Jenkins at center, Tevin Jenkins at right guard.
And I also really like that, again, these rookies, when you talk about establishing a culture, I saw a couple times that Austin Barber was on the sideline and working through pass sets during 11-on-11 with other veterans.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these guys are coming into work. These guys are focused. And that's something I don't think you see out of a lot of rookies coming into the NFL, and especially not in Cleveland. You know, it looks like they're there to work. And I know a couple of those rookie offensive linemen, they stayed after to work with Zion Johnson. Shador stayed after to work with Taylor Green.
I saw that.
So, I mean, this is a really good first start for these young guys.
A lot of
establishing the
positives.
culture.
Are you going back out today?
Yeah, I'll be out there today.
Beautiful.
Hopefully a better day for the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath, especially on Deshaun.